who hopefully would be submitting. And I do not know the reason why people who even had the LMS did not submit the assignment till Tuesday. I mean, till yesterday. You were supposed to. Right or wrong is another thing, but you must meet the deadlines. I don't work like that. Okay. And I'll be taking your quiz on Saturday of whatever we have done, and it would be a credited quiz. I have to check what I have to do with this assignment. Would I like to have it resubmitted? And it would be one of your midterm questions then. Okay, if I'll ask you for a resubmission, it would be a midterm question. I'll give you something else for the assignment. Let me take out the word from here. Oops. My word opens here. I'm just telling you the format. Whatever you put inside, that's really up to you, but your format should be correct. It should look like some kind of an academic writing and presentable to, और ये color वाला ना किया करें. Here comes your screen. Okay. Now look here, if you can see my screen, here is your font size. Okay. My word is not right now not working. It needs an activation, but here is your font size. If I can write here. Okay. Here has to be a font size, right? And this should be New Times Roman. Let me put it in your chat. Okay, so it should be Times New Roman 12, 14 for headings, and always black. Okay, black ink. Do not color your headings. And then as far as the margins are concerned, your margins should be 1.5 left, 1, 1, 1, 3 sides. Okay. Your page number should be on the right top. Right? And you should be following this pattern all the time whenever you are given any of the assignments. Got it? So you would be looking at your assignments again, and you would be resubmitting it. I will think because we have to conduct an online midterm paper also. So what I'm doing with the rest of the classes, I'm just collecting the questions, right? So you need to submit it in the right format with the right kind of English, and it might be considered as one of your midterm questions. I'll mark it as one of your midterm questions. So later on, I can give you some other questions to be submitted in the same Dropbox along with this question. So your midterm paper would be automatically done online. Okay. There might be other ways also, but this is what might be easier for all of us to keep on taking questions from you, right? a credited quiz, and you would be submitting these assignments. I would not be giving you more time. You will be submitting it by tomorrow, all of you. And I wonder, I'll talk to your CR also, why there are only 23 students out of 51. I thought your class strength is 33. The first registration that was sent to us by the IT, so 30 students were good enough or 25 were good enough. But when the strength, according to your CR, the ones that were added later on, I don't know if you have an access now. Anyway, the ones that were given, the new names that were given to me, I added them, and now the class strength is 50 plus. So I wonder, where are the rest of the people? But if they have serious issues with connectivity, please do inform them. Okay, that's the responsibility of the CR also. But if they are your friends, please inform them about submissions. Okay, I think all of you are on LMS. All of you are registered now on LMS, and you can access your Dropbox. Other than that, we'll have an online quiz on Saturday, right? It would not be on LMS. I would arrange it somewhere else, but it would be online, right? Now, coming to your lecture, we have completed the direct method. I told you maybe some of the things were remaining to be discussed from the direct method, but since you have done the assignment, so you must have done it by yourself also. We just had to talk about teacher's role and the student role and the view about the language and the role of first language. But I hope you have read this all. We just know that the role of the teacher is similar as it was in the GTM. Direct method classrooms are also teacher-centered classroom, but students are less passive. They are more passive in the GTM and less passive here. In direct method, there is a student-student interaction also, along with teacher-student interaction. Most importantly, there's no use of the mother tongue between the students or between students and the teacher. Language view is very important. GTM thinks that literary language is the actual language that should be learned by the students, whereas the direct method sees language as speech. Okay, and then all the skills are practiced here, but more importance is given to the pronunciation of the students in the target language, because the aim is to teach them communication, right? But there came a decline for this method also, and we have thrown some light on the reasons why this method could not get popularity, because it was expensive too, and the kind of resources that this method demanded could not be provided in many of the countries, like the teacher being the native speaker. So there were schools like Burles School, those were private schools who could adopt this method very, very successfully. But other than that, you know, publicly it was not a very successful and a popular method, right? Okay. Okay, Minal Shah is asking about what is this new Times Roman. Right. I'll get back to you with Word, and I'll tell you what this new time Romans actually is. Okay, we'll do that again. I need to activate my, I'm using Mac, and I need to activate my apps again and again. Right. Anyway, I'll do that. Okay, I would not leave without doing it. But this is what we needed to know about the direct method. We have already discussed the principles also, how vocabulary is learned, and grammar too. And there is no role of the native language. We did not see a formal evaluation being done, but we saw students practicing. Okay. Guys, it's good that you come with your own names. I do not know if you are using your brothers or father's gadgets, so we do not have an idea. Anyway, let's admit. Right. Okay, so today we are going to do the third method, which is called as the audiolingual method. It is similar in some ways to the direct method, um, in a way that only target languages is spoken and communication is the goal, right? Now, because it was realized after GTM, and one of the reasons of decline of GTM was its a focus on the forms. Okay, later on it was found out that if the form is focused, it would not make people competent in their speech. Okay, it would not make students communicatively competent. Therefore, whichever methods we are going to do after GTM, rarely you would see mother tongue being used, and similar was the case with audiolingual method. Okay, now even with the direct method, they learn to use the language, but the use was very, very limited. Okay, and it was found that students who learned English through the direct method were still not functional in the language, right? So what did the later linguists do was to do research as to how to make the learners of English competent in speech, right? So the rest of the method we would be looking at uh, the methods focusing on this speaking skills and less on forms and structures of the language. Similar was the case with audiolingual method. Now, audio means listening, lingual means language. Okay, so this tells you that it was the method focused on listening and speaking skills. Now, let's take a look at the history of this method. Now, when United States entered in World War II, it realized that it did not know the language of the enemy. Okay, it did not know the European languages like French and Italian, and some of the Asian languages like Chinese and Japanese and Malay. So it wanted its army to learn these languages so that they can work as translators, so that they can code the language, they can be interpreters of the language. So it became very, very important for the army personnel of yeah, American army to learn these languages, right? And they found out that direct method wasn't doing the task. So they actually um, gave these responsibilities to the American universities, and there were a number of universities, almost 55 American universities, which got involved in this program. So this method is basically based on a full-fledged program, and that came to be known as Army Specialized Training Program. Okay, ASTP. So the method, audiolingual method, basically started with Army Specialized Training Program for the American Army who were in the Second World War, and they did not know the language of the enemy. They wanted to learn the language in order to understand it, okay? Because language became a huge problem for them. So on emergency basis, they started Army Specialized Training Programs for the learning of several languages, because there were so many countries that were involved in Second World War, right? So basically the American army were learning several second languages like German, French, Italian, Chinese, Japanese, Malay, and many other languages that were the need of the time. They needed interpreters. Of course, they could not hire interpreters from the enemy side, right? So they had to produce their own interpreters. They had to produce people who were fluent in these languages. Okay, they needed to know the code language of the enemy. They needed translators also So they actually set up a program on emergency basis, and these army officers and people of American army were given special language training through this program, right? And this program wasn't just a part of small language centers, but it became a part of American universities. They got involved in the program. Now, what was this program doing? And so many people got involved. They were, trying to develop syllabus, special syllabus. We are going to look at the syllabus also. How does this method work? They were training the teachers also. They were arranging things, so it was huge, right? So this method, in short, was developed during the war times. Okay. Now, what approach does this method take? We'll look at both the theories, the theory of language and theory of learning. As far as the theory of language is concerned, it was derived from the structural linguistics, right? So the focus was on the structures of the language, but in speech, right? So as to utter the correct structures. It was, see, um, structure view of language was also included in the approach of GTM, but it was different. It was about learning the form, right? Here also it's about learning the form, but those that can be used in speech. There the focus was only rote learning the rules. Here the rules were not rote learned, but the structures, syntax was the focus. Let's put it this way. If you know what do you mean by syntax? What is meant by syntax? Get to your chat. What is meant by syntax? Okay, I need to talk to Eamon also. Get to your chat. The question is, what is meant by syntax? What is meant by syntax? And let me talk to Eamon. Arrangement of the Faiz Batul, it's not arrangement of sentences. Okay, right. Okay, most of you have an idea of what syntax is. It's basically the arrangement of words. Okay, arrange different grammatical parts, right? For instance, what is English syntax? What is the structure of a simple sentence in English? What is the syntax of a simple sentence? Okay. Now I'm asking you the simple. What is the simple? Let me put it this way. What is the syntax of a simple sentence? Yeah, Minal Shah is right. We call this as SVO. Okay. We can have SV also. We can have SVC also. Okay. SVO is about the event. SV is SVO is about the action. SV is about the event. SVC is about the happening. Okay, when we use a complement, right? But basically, when we talk about a simple syntax of a simple sentence, we say that it is SVO, and this is not similar for all the languages. All the language have their own syntax, right? Now, what I was telling you is the focus or the theory of language that audiolingual method takes is similar, right? But what happens is the forms are focused for a different purpose. The purpose is different. In GTM, the form is focused so as to, learn the rules. But here, the form is focused to use the sentences correctly. Okay, to put the forms at the right places. While we would be actually observing the class where this method is being in practice, we will see that the forms are focused, and that too for the practicing the speech. Okay, right. Now let's move to the second part of approach, which is called as the theory of language. Theory of language learning. Just give me a minute. I'm checking if my word has started to work. Just a minute. Okay, we have already talked about its theory of language learning, which happened to be behaviorism. Okay. Okay, are there any more girls? No, just one. Okay, right. Okay, so here I'm sharing the screen. Who asked me? I think Fez Batul asked me or someone asked me. Right. Now I'm sharing the screen. We'll get back to the discussion. But what is important is to learn how to make an assignment, right? Lecture is, a task for every day, but this is important how to make your lectures. Okay, now my word is working. You can see the font Calibri here. Okay, what you're going to do is to select Times New Roman. Okay, when you would write Times New Roman, it would be here. Otherwise, the default setting is Calibri. And here, this is the font size. This is your font kind. So you're officially academically be work with APA as you are learning to research, also write down your research assignments too. So we usually follow APA, and then we follow this. Basically, this is your font name Times New Roman, and 12 is your usual font size. Okay. Other than that, for your headings you use 14. Okay, right? Because it's a default. Otherwise, when you will start writing, it would change to Times New Roman. You can even write down your assignment and then just select all, and you can then convert it. Okay, right. Other than that, I was telling you about the margins. You can come here in the layout. Okay, here is the margins, right? And you need to customize your margins from here. top you need to have just one. Oops, here. You need to have one here. Bottom should be one here. Left should be 1.5, right? And the right should be 1 again. Okay, so you have customized it. Just click OK. Other than that, you have here in home, you justify the text through this. Okay, whatever you write, we are having LTM plus. Okay, so whatever you are writing, Times New Roman, I don't know why is it not working. Anyway, from here you are going to select this and you're going to justify it so that you have all the writing in one line, right? Then you can go here, the distance between the two lines. Now the distance that should be between the two lines should be 1.5. Okay, so your lines wouldn't be so very close to one another and your lines wouldn't be away from one another. And this is the standard. 1.5 to 2 is the standard. Sometimes we take it as 2, sometimes we take it as 1. Page numbers, you give your page numbers from somewhere here. Yeah, here you give the bullets. These are the bullets. These are 1, 2, 3 if you want to number them. Somewhere here you have the page numbers also. So you give the page numbers here. Okay, yeah, insert. Go to insert. And do we have page numbers? We have pages and yeah, here, page numbers, right? Now you want to position your page numbers on the top right, then click OK. So your page number should appear here, nowhere else, neither at the bottom nor in the left. And always remember, this is the standard. Ones who would be doing the thesis would be following the same format. Okay, your research teacher would tell you more about the format, but what I want you to follow the format is this. Do not send me assignment in colors. Do not send me in bigger font sizes. And do not send me in different formats. Okay, the different kind of writings. Somewhere you're Calibri, somewhere you're something else. So please take care of these things. You will feel that your assignment looks really academic. It gives you official and academic look also, right? And it gives the uniformity too. Other than that, I do not know if you are taught APA referencing. अगर आपने reference देने होते हैं, you need to follow a certain pattern. ऐसे थोड़ी होता है from ma'am's lecture. This is no reference, guys. Have you done? Just raise your hands. Have you done APA? Have you done APA for formatting? Just raise your hand. Okay, Faiz Batul knows how to do the referencing. Anyway, it is basically a topic of research, but if you want to do the referencing, it has to be done on the standard format. Okay, it is just not normally done. Like some people have written these are taken from ma'am notes or the book that ma'am suggested. These are no references, and write down the name of the book. Okay, I did not ask you for the references because I told you that the assignment is based on your understanding. Okay, right. Let's get back to our screen. Okay, here it is. Okay. Now, as far as the approach is concerned, I told you that the theory of language underlying audiolingualism was derived and proposed by an American linguist in the 1950s. And basically, in easier terms, it was a structural view of the language, the structural linguistics, where the focus is on the forms, right? Um, Now, what happened is, because the forms were being focused, so it was with the belief that mastering the elements of building blocks means the syntax, okay, different parts of the sentence of language, and learning the rules by which these are combined. Again, this whole defines your syntax. So these building blocks are joined together through a certain rule, okay. So what it believes is that these rules should be learned or should be taught to the students who are learning the second language, but not with the aim that they should be able to write these rules, or they should be able to apply these rules in writing, but so as to um, speak the language correctly. The blocks should be, this building blocks should be in place, right? So building blocks and learning the rules by which these elements, the different noun, verb, whatever elements are part of the sentence, are combined, from phonemes to morphemes to words to phrases to sentences, all of these, okay. And talking about the phonemes, that means pronunciation would remain the focus of this method, right? So from this theory of language, we got to know that the focus is on the structures, on the syntax, basically on different parts, their combination. And this theory calls the parts of the sentences as building blocks, which are combined through certain rules. These rules should be told to the students, but with the aim that they would take care of these rules while speaking the language, okay. And I would like to tell you here that this method was very short-lived, okay. Like GTM was a long-lived method, still surviving in our country, but stayed popular for 100 years. But this method was there for like very few years, and it has different reasons of decline, several reasons of decline, okay. Now the theory of learning sees it um, as sees humans as organisms where who can form certain habits, okay. So these humans are those organisms who are capable of wide repertoires of behaviors, and these behaviors are dependent upon three crucial elements in learning. uh, it's about what we discussed in Skinner: stimulus, okay, there is a response that is triggered by stimulus, and then there is a reinforcement which serves to mark the response as being appropriate or inappropriate, okay. So either the response, when the response is encouraged, it becomes a habit. When this response is discouraged, it gets suppressed, okay. It would not be repeated in future, right? So the theory of learning behind this audiolingual method is behaviorism. And what is behaviorism? We have already discussed that it sees human as an organism with several behaviors, and one of the behavior is habit formation. The basis of audiolingual method is habit formation, and this habit formation involves three things, okay, of the behavior. There are three elements. One is stimulus, which serves to elicit a behavior, a response which is triggered by a stimulus. And then there is a reinforcement. There is a positive reinforcement for good behaviors, there is a negative reinforcement for bad behaviors. So when there is a positive reinforcement, that can become the habit of the learners, right? And I already told you that the theory did not, this theory itself, behaviorism, was later on rejected because it was more applicable on animals and not on humans, right? Someone is saying something in the chat. Okay, there was just one girl. I allowed her. Okay, right? So and one of the reasons for its decline was also its basis, the theory of language, which happened to be behaviorism. When the theory itself got rejected, so the method could not stand for long, right? And the reason for rejection of behaviorism was it was found to be more applicable on animals, because it came after experiments on animals like rats and dogs, right? Um, Mentalist model found out that there is something between stimulus and response, and there can be different responses of different human beings to a single stimulus, right? So there is a thought between stimulus and response that can vary the responses basically. So the habit that can be formed in animals is not similar to habit formation in humans, right? Anyway, what I would want you to know is the approach here, and the theory of language and the theory of learning, two things, okay? Now moving on to what activities can take place, what techniques can be used by the teacher, what techniques were actually used. We are going to go to a classroom in Mali. Okay, where is Mali, by the way? Where is Mali? Let me put this in the chat just for general knowledge, and we would. I've allowed everyone, guys. Okay, now just for general knowledge. Where is Mali? And what language do these people speak? By the way, the teacher would be teaching English here as a second language, but where is Mali and what language do they speak? What is their language? If anyone knows, please you may raise your hand so that we can, just hurry up with this. Okay, no one knows. Now Mali is in Africa, okay, in the continent of Africa, and the official language is French. Otherwise, there are many local languages within Mali, right? So the class that is under observation, or the class that we are visiting, yes, it's in West Africa. You are quick to Google Fezbatul. Yes, it is in, and it's good. Of course, you cannot rote learn where is Mali. So Mali is an African country. It's in West Africa, and their official language is French. Otherwise, people may be speaking a lot of local languages. Okay, there are lots of tribes. It's not a very peaceful place. There are lots of tribes, and they speak many of the African languages, but they remained a colony perhaps of France. So for that reason, French remains the official language. But right now, the class that we would be observing is English class. Okay, they are learning English as a second language, and these are teenagers. Their age is like between 13 and 15 years old, and they have a class 5 days a week for 1 hour. So that means we can derive a principle that the teaching of the target language should be very, very regular. Otherwise, in the previous ones, we used to see that they are being taught for 2 hours or maybe 3 hours, but they are given practice every day except for the 2 off days. There are 5 classes every day. They are coming for 1 hour. Okay, so what we observe here, the start of the class is very different from GTM and the direct method. right? Now, what is the difference? Basically, both the classes of GTM and the direct method starting with reading. Okay, they selected different texts. One selected literature, the other selected another subject of, but in English, that was geography. But here, when we enter the classroom, we do not see students with books because no reading activity is going on, right? So the principle that we derive is that reading is not the focus. Okay, what we see here is the teacher uttering dialogues, and all the exercises, all the techniques are based on dialogues. So we can say that the focus is on speaking skills, okay, and less on any other skills but speaking skills. We find the teacher speaking actually, and these dialogues are not in the book. These dialogues are actually being performed by the teacher, okay. She tells the students a situation, and then then she repeats the dialogues, and the students know that they have to memorize the dialogues, okay, not the grammar rules, but the dialogues actually, and see how the dialogues are structured, what different structures constitutes these dialogues, right? So she repeats so that the students can memorize, okay. So she gives them a model speech, okay. We would also find out that all the techniques that she is going to practice with the students are based on dialogues, okay. It can be drill, it can be expansion drill, it can be substitution drill, it can be single substitution, it can be multiple substitution, but much of it is based on the dialogues only. So the students repeat these dialogues with the teacher, right? Now what we see is that she actually contextualized these dialogues and tell the situation to the students that there are two participants in the dialogue by the name of Sally and Bill, and these two people are in conversation because they are going somewhere, okay. So she tells them that they are going to the post office, and the situation is that one has to inquire the other one where is he or she going, and then the other person says that she's going to go along, okay. This is the situation that two people are discussing place basically, right? So she tells them how to greet in English. Sally says good morning Bill, and Bill says good morning Sally. Now Sally says how are you, Bill says fine thank you, and you? Sally says fine, where are you? And I'm going to the post office. Sally says I'm too, shall we go together? Sure, let's go. Let me share the book also. It's about time too, but let me share with you the book so that you are able to look at the dialogues as well, okay, here. Right now, here is the conversation, and there are two characters in the conversation, but initially the teacher only she is uttering the dialogues for both of them, okay. So the students repeat the dialogue after the teacher makes the student listen for more time, one more time, right? And she says they must try to understand the meaning now. Firstly, it was just understanding the sounds. She's repeating so that the students know or try to know the meaning also. And one line is repeated several times. And I told you that in this method, they are actually rote learning the dialogues, right? So it is repeated several times, and then when the teacher is sure that everyone knows how to pronounce the words in a particular line, then she moves to another line, okay, or another dialogue. So every dialogue is repeated several times by the student, but after the teacher. Now, what the teacher does she starts the backward build-up drill. This is also called as expansion drill. When she feels that students have a problem in some of the words that lie in the end, I am going to the post office, right? So she notices that some of the students stumble there. They are unable to pronounce it correctly. Okay. The form is not clear to them or they do not sound correct. So she makes use of expansion drills, which is also called as backward drills. Now, when the teacher finds out that the students are unable to pronounce the post office correctly, she says post office, the class repeats post office. To the post office, going to the post office, I'm going to the post office. Now this is called as the backward drill or the expansion drill because she starts with one word, adds the word in the backward direction, and the students in chorus, not one student, but in chorus, they keep on repeating it. Okay. So by the time they are on the expansion drill, most of the students have already memorized that if they have to go to the post office, how would the dialogues go? Okay. They know when they meet someone, what would they say? And if they have to go to the post office, what do they say? Right? So wherever there is a trouble in pronunciation, the teacher gives them more practice. So we do not, like in grammar translation method, the teacher is free. Once the reading comprehension is given to the students do it by themselves. But in audiolingual method, we'll see that the teacher is busy all the time throughout the time that the students are in the class and learning English as a second language. She has engaged the students in drill. Okay, so they are practicing it again and again and again. Whenever she finds out that there is a problem in pronunciation of a certain word, she gives them more practice so that they learn the pronunciation, they learn the correct pronunciation. So we can derive the principle that pronunciation is focused. For speaking, pronunciation is vital. Pronunciation is important. There can be no speech or no development in the speaking skills until and unless the students learn to pronounce things correctly. Okay, so wherever she finds out that there is some problem with the pronunciation of any of the words, maybe this looks simpler to you because we have been studying English, but um, when we are talking about classrooms, language classrooms, where second language is being taught, students do not know much about the language. So they are unable to pronounce a number of words, right? For instance, here, the expansion drill was needed because she found out that some of the students were unable to pronounce post office. Now, one more thing you would observe that the problem in pronunciation is one word, but according to audiolingual method, words do not have existence in seclusion. Okay, they cannot be, words cannot be learned in isolation. They have to be contextualized, and how these are being contextualized by putting them in proper sentences, right? For instance, in GTM you observe that they were given a list of vocabulary, but in grammar translation audiolingual method this is not the case, right? I think you have to go for another class also. So I stop here, but I would like you to read this on your own and we'll discuss it tomorrow, right? If you have any questions, you can leave in my chat room, okay? And Eamon, please disseminate this information about the submission of this, I wouldn't call it assignment, I might mark you for your midterm on this. This may be one of the questions of your midterm. This is the last time I'm giving you a chance for a resubmission, otherwise, I would not, even mark you. And please use correct English, do something about it. If you have problems with the correct use of the language, do something about it. Learn it, get it checked from somewhere, do something, but I should receive document with correct Angrezi, right? I have no patience with the wrong kind of a language, right? Okay, so I'm stopping the recording here. The recordings would be available